are holding a rally today demanding better security. They say the city's drug and homelessness crisis is making their jobs dangerous, and they don't have enough security guards. That rally kicking off at noon. And firefighters are watching for hot spots after a warehouse fire in Hayward. It started last night near Tripaldi and Hall Roads. A building housed an insulation business. No word on the extent of the damage. No injuries reported. The Bay Area's only primetime newscasts at 8 and 9 p.m. on the all-new Pix Plus, 44, Cable 12.
It's been a beautiful, warm start to the week as high pressure sitting just offshore, bringing in the winds from the north and leaving us with clear skies into the afternoon hours, which was perfect for yesterday's partial eclipse that we experienced here in the Bay Area. But that system's going to continue to move off into the east later this week, and we actually have another rain system returning into the Bay Area, heading into our weekend forecast, which is very similar to last week's cold front that moved its way in. Remember how Easter Sunday was beautiful and sunny, and then suddenly by the end of the week we were talking about breezy conditions and rainy skies? Well, that's happening again for us this week as this area of low pressure starts troughing its way down into the Pacific Northwest and then eventually just offshore of our California coastline, and that's going to bring in rain for us Friday, Saturday, and a little bit of Sunday too. And as it continues to circulate just offshore, it'll bring in some gusty conditions and of course those cold temperatures too. So compared to what we have today, it's going to look a lot different, and I'll show you what we're expecting today in just a second. Here's those rainfall totals that we're expecting heading into the weekend forecast. About a half an inch, which is pretty impressive actually as we extend into the next couple days, considering the fact that we're already above average for many pockets of the Bay Area for our rainfall season so far. To give an example, San Francisco all the way up into Santa Rosa and San Jose, we're all sitting above 100%. So taking a look at our daytime highs today, well, we are expecting beautiful conditions. I'm talking about 70s anywhere from Antioch all the way over into Livermore, low 60s still along the coast, but it's still a sunny day for us no matter whether you live along Half Moon Bay or down into the Santa Clara Valley. So expect a gorgeous one out there this afternoon. And taking a look at the next 7 days, well, Wednesday and Thursday are looking perfect, actually. Sunny skies, mild conditions. We're expecting 80s in our inland areas. And then once that cold front moves in, watch the difference that happens just within the matter of a couple days. I mean, 50s right around the corner, rainy skies. We're going to slowly warm up into our Sunday forecast. And by next week, we dry up by Monday with partly cloudy conditions right around the corner.
The city of San Francisco is pushing a strategy to try to bring life back to downtown, and the mayor is pitching her plan directly to leaders in Sacramento. According to real estate firm CRBE, 36% of the city's office space is vacant. That is an all-time high, and that is due in large part to the post-pandemic rise of remote work. Experts say the city has a lot of potential to bounce back this year. One small business downtown tells our Kelsey Thorid it can't happen soon enough.
Saj Mediterranean has been here at the corner of Pine and Belden in the financial district since 2018. Manager Nancy Madrigal says when they first snagged this location, they were ecstatic.
This was store number 4, so it was pretty busy.
Nancy says they would have lines out the door during the weekday lunch rush. But then, of course, the pandemic hit.
It's definitely not the same as before.
Nancy says even all these years later, since the peak of COVID, the crowds just aren't coming back.
Out of the 5 days, we might have 2 good days.
Saj isn't alone. So many businesses continue to struggle, especially those downtown. The trend towards work from home has gutted many high-rises in the area, taking away a huge chunk of these restaurants' clientele. That is why Mayor Breed and several other city officials are pushing the state to pass laws that will make it easier to turn those vacant spaces into housing or other mixed-use venues. President and CEO of the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce, Rodney Fong, says he's fully on board with the mayor's vision.
I think COVID taught us not to necessarily put all of our eggs in one basket, and San Francisco has the luxury of being able to try to diversify itself, which I think the mayor, by going to Sacramento, is trying to do to expedite and create incentives for people to take chance and be creative in this great downtown.
Back at Saj, Nancy told me she too likes the idea of getting more people back into downtown. She just hopes those people will visit her restaurant as much as those did before.
Improving either housing or more work offices around the area will improve our business a lot.
Meanwhile, Oakland is being threatened with a lawsuit from San Francisco over its plans to rebrand its airport. The Port Commission is expected to vote this week on a proposal to add San Francisco Bay to the Oakland airport's name. San Francisco claims that would be trademark infringement and could confuse travelers who think they're going to one place and end up somewhere else. In a statement, the Port of Oakland blamed a lack of geographic awareness for the airport's struggles in getting new routes. It added the new name would bring more flights that would benefit the entire region. The A's announcement that they are leaving Oakland after this season is another big economic blow for the Hegenberger corridor near the Coliseum. Some people in East Oakland tell our Da Lin the team's departure and recent business closures are setting the area back decades.
Retired city officials tell me it took decades to convince companies to invest in East Oakland and the Hegenberger corridor. Many people are angry that years of hard work vanished in a short amount of time as businesses leave the city. The A's will soon join a growing list of businesses that have left the Hegenberger Road area. The team admits the move will result in job losses.
We don't necessarily want to call it an economic desert, but it's starting to look that way.
Lifelong East Oakland resident Charles Johnson says it's more economic pain for some of his neighbors who work as concession workers at the Coliseum.
It is an absolute frustration, and it even goes to, at times, a level of anger.
The business corridor has seen a decline in recent years that started with the departure of Walmart in 2016. But the pace of closures sped up in the last 12 months. 2 Starbucks, a Subway, an In-N-Out, a Denny's, and a Black Bear Diner. And 2 restaurants have closed their dining rooms to do drive-through only because of car break-ins.
Crime and, quote-unquote, the reputation.
You look at it today, they're leaving here like the city's on fire.
Acts Full Gospel Church is located near the Coliseum. Bishop Bob Jackson says it took decades to bring economic vitality to the Hegenberger corridor. While the A's are leaving over a different reason, the result is the same: fewer tax dollars and fewer jobs for people in East Oakland.
Just helping crime to escalate even more, because without the jobs, without making the money, what are you going to do? How are you going to live? So crime seems to be the only thing that's working in the city of Oakland.
Many residents like Charles say the city has to do better to reduce crime, or more businesses will continue to leave.
I don't think that it's over. I just think that you have to have some optimism and have some visionaries who would like to come back and make Oakland back tough and strong like it was before.
The A's are scheduled to play their last regular season home game on September 26th.
Now to Concord, where landlords are upset over a recently passed rent control ordinance. So they want to put the issue on the November ballot and let voters decide. But as John Ramos reports, housing advocates say it's just wealthy investors and developers trying to squeeze more money out of people.
After 7 years of often angry debate, the city of Concord passed a new rent control and eviction ordinance, much to the delight of tenants' rights advocates. But now the new law is on hold as landlords scramble to try to put the matter before the voters.
By preventing high rent increases, renters will be able to save money for other needs like groceries and medicine.
The rally at this Concord park sounded like a campaign for rent control, but that's a battle that has already been won. The question is, who will win the war?
This was approved by City Council 4-1, and this wealthy real estate groups, are putting this on hold. And this will, this will create for renters to keep getting more rent increases or unjust evictions. So we want people, the residents of Concord, to know what's going on in the city.
Vice Mayor Obringer?
Yes.
Mayor Bursan?
Yes. And with that, this item is closed.
In February, the City Council approved new rent controls and just cause eviction protections for renters, and they made it clear that they felt there needed to be more control over landlords.
It's been a rough night. It's been a rough 7 years. We gave it 7 years without acting, and quite frankly, it didn't work.
We wouldn't be having this conversation if your people, colleagues and friends or whatever who own property and are landlords weren't doing or harassing tenants or abusing their rights.
Then what I say to that is penalize those people, not the homeowners or the small mom and pop places.
Joe Chironi thinks they went too far. The Concord resident and real estate broker says the city's tenant ordinance went from 8 pages to 30 and now gives eviction protection to people living in all residential buildings, including single-family homes. Chironi says homeowners could lose all control over their properties, so she's spearheading an effort to put Concord's new ordinance on the ballot.
My feeling was we had asked them to put this to a vote. Let the citizens of Concord, both tenants and landlords, let the citizens of Concord, which includes everybody, vote on the ordinance. That's all we ask, and that's what the referendum is about.
By law, the ordinance is on hold for 30 days while Chironi tries to raise enough signatures to qualify the referendum. If she can't, the ordinance goes into effect immediately. And that's why the tenants' rights activists were caravanning through the streets on Sunday afternoon, trying to raise awareness and support if it should come down to a vote. Chironi says she's okay with that.
If the citizens of Concord vote as a majority that they want rent control and this ordinance, then so be it. We'll have to live with it because that's a democracy. If they vote it down, then that should tell the council something.
If the referendum is successful, the entire ordinance would be scrapped, and the city council would be back to square one on a tenant protection law they spent 7 years creating.
Proponents have until April 18th to gather 7,200 signatures to qualify that measure for the November ballot. Still ahead here on CBS News Bay Area, we're going to explain why some Bay Area drivers are getting ticketed for parking in their own driveway. Plus, we'll break down the new rules for California realtors, how it could impact our housing market. And a Bay Area nurse puts her own life on the line to save lives in a war zone. She tells us what it took to get into Gaza and why she'd go back.
Very similar to yesterday's forecast, we're sitting in the 70s and upper 60s throughout most of the Bay Area heading into this afternoon. With the exception of Half Moon Bay, along our coastline, it'll be just a little bit cooler as those gusty conditions last into this afternoon. But from Oakland all the way off into the East Bay, 70s are holding on tight to us today with clear skies above us, and the pollen count is relatively high, so just keep that in mind if you are sensitive to allergies. But other than that, this is the day to get out there and get some fresh air. And here's the reason why I say that, because we're heading into a little tiny stretch of dry weather today, tomorrow, lasting into our Thursday forecast with some nice warm weather too in our inland areas. Low 80s by Wednesday into Thursday for areas like Concord, stretching down into the Santa Clara Valley. But once we head into our weekend forecast, no matter where you live, whether you're along the coast or off into the most east of the East Bay, we're going to be sitting in the 50s with rainy skies as a cold front moves in, and that's going to linger into our Sunday morning forecast too, with dry conditions by early next week.
Well, imagine coming home from a long day at work, parking in your own driveway, and then waking up the next morning to find a ticket on your car. It has to do with exactly where the car is parked. And some neighbors told our Amanda Harry this is crossing the line.
People in these neighborhoods say they've been parking like this for years, and suddenly they're seeing SFMTA issue citations. The issue is what you see here. Cars parked in short driveways, forcing them to spill over into the sidewalk. Then people have to walk around them to get by.
I was like thinking about, am I gonna, wake up with like a ticket in the front?
David Cho regularly house sits in the inner Sunset. He says he's in a neighborhood group message, and people have been talking about an uptick in citations for cars parked in their own driveways. The offense listed on the ticket, blocking part of the sidewalk. Cho has parked sideways like this for years, leaving room for pedestrians. But now he's concerned that might not be enough.
This is my electric car, and then I park it here because the charger is on this side. And then so I can run a line here to charge my car. And so if I park it out there, then the line will be on the sidewalk, and I don't want people to be tripping on it.
Throughout the inner Sunset neighborhood, dozens of cars are hanging over the sidewalk. Someone who lives in the Richmond district took to X to complain about the citation, saying they had parked that way for years. The SFMTA responded, saying not being cited before isn't a guarantee you won't be cited in the future, and that there is a recent effort to better address sidewalk parking in the city. Near 9th Avenue and Moraga Street, a sign asking people to not call the Department of Transportation to ticket cars parked in driveways. It suggests leaving a note asking someone to park differently.
I think, if you live in the neighborhood, we should be a little bit more friendly and neighborhoody to our neighbors. And I think it doesn't have to go for the kill, maybe just kind of like talk to the person.
Harrison. Linda Messett doesn't have a car, but lives in the neighborhood and frequently walks her dog Harrison. She says she sees cars spilling into the sidewalk all the time, and it could cause issues.
When we walk in a group, we're going up to meet our friends to walk all of our dogs together, and then you're going around and you end up in the street, or, it's a pain sometimes.
She says she's able-bodied and usually just walking her dog, but for others, it could become dangerous.
I think that it would be a bigger issue if I had kids and, you're trying to get a group of children and you don't want to cross into the street to get around a car.
Cho says he thinks the law needs to be enforced on a case-by-case basis.
Things need to make sense. Regulations and rules is to make sense of something. If a rule doesn't make sense anymore, then why should there be a rule? And I think what makes sense is like people with strollers and dogs and whatnot be able to pass through. And I think there should be enough space.
For now, people in these neighborhoods say they will continue to try to come up with creative solutions to avoid being cited in the future.
Well, the SFMTA will soon crack down on right turns on red lights. They plan on extending the rule to all intersections highlighted here on your screen: downtown, Soma, Chinatown, and North Beach. The city says it's going to make crosswalks safer. A group called Walk SF says that 17 people were killed while walking in San Francisco in 2023, and pedestrians accounted for 65% of all traffic-related fatalities.
At the 50 intersections that SFMTA implemented no turn on red in 2021, 92% of drivers complied with those no turn on red signs. And so this actually works incredibly well. Our status quo is dangerous and deadly.
If it works out from a traffic standpoint, you can make your right turn easily and, be on your way. It's obviously more efficient and faster.
This project is an extension of No Right Turn on Red program, which already exists in the Tenderloin. A recently settled class action lawsuit by the National Association of Realtors will change the way real estate agents get paid commission. And that's raising some questions about exactly how that will impact the housing market. Kenny Choi explains how the industry is trying to navigate the shift.
Hari Iyer has been searching to buy a family home for the first time and learning a lot about the process along the way.
Patience, and it's kind of terrifying when you see these home prices. You've got to be really strategic about how you choose things.
Iyer is renting in San Francisco and works in tech. He started the journey with his agent before new rules are slated to go into effect in July. They include requiring a buyer and agent to negotiate and sign a commission rate agreement before the search even begins.
It just seems like it would put a higher burden of proof on the realtor to show their potential clients that they're really good before having a chance to walk through the home with them and really show them, what it's going to be like and show their abilities at that moment.
Michael Annunziata is co-founder of North Point Real Estate and is representing Iyer. He's also the listing agent for this Telegraph Hill condo. The traditional model has been to include 5 to 6% commission to be split between a seller's agent and buyer's agent, with a seller paying the cost after the deal closes.
The main challenge I'm seeing will be able to communicate the value I provide as a buyer's agent up front.
The new model will allow sellers to opt out of paying the commission for the buyer's agent, but that doesn't mean all realtors will do that.
Having a well-represented buyer in a transaction is often at the seller's advantage to getting to the closing table.
Many, including Annunziata, believe offering to pay the buyer's agent even after the new rules kick in could attract more buyers and ultimately help close deals. Housing analysts are trying to determine whether these shifts will impact the price of homes.
It's not going to be a huge change to what folks are paying out of pocket for a home in the Bay Area.
Louis Morante is vice president of public policy on housing for the nonprofit Bay Area Council, which represents some of the largest employers in the area.
I think this is going to be ultimately good for innovation. I think it'll be good for competition. And I think it'll be a slight downward pressure on real estate prices, but nothing huge.
It's uncertain if future data will paint a clearer picture as housing prices are impacted by numerous factors, including shifts in supply and demand. What is clear for buyers like Hari Iyer is the need for a proven agent well before a commission agreement is signed.
As a buyer, I'd put way more stock into word of mouth and referrals and direct recommendations.
His months-long search in San Francisco could soon be coming to an end.
I feel like I'm a lot more informed right now about how I'm going through this thing. And when the right home comes along, and I know I've got to be patient here, and Mike's coaching me through this thing, at that moment, we can move very quickly.
The new realtor rule changes are opening new doors in the art of closing a deal.
The National Association of Realtors recently agreed to end landmark antitrust class action lawsuits by paying $418 million in damages and eliminating those rules on commissions. Still ahead, the only emergency room along the San Mateo County coast is shut down, and that closure could last almost a year. Why a Bay Area congresswoman says this does not add up. And a reminder, you can stream CBS News Bay Area wherever, whenever. Catch all of our live newscasts, plus news and weather updates throughout the day. You can find us on the free CBS News app or on Pluto TV.
It's a dry day today, tomorrow, lasting into our Thursday forecast. But I think it's worth mentioning that we have a cold front once again around the corner that reminds me a lot of last week's cold front that brought in breezy conditions, chilly temperatures, and of course more rain too. That happens for us as we head into this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But before we get there, I want to talk about this dry portion right here because it is dry as we head into the afternoon hours today, thanks to high pressure sitting just offshore. That's keeping us above average when it comes to our temperatures too. I mean, taking a look at our daytime highs today, we're above average whether you live in San Francisco, Oakland, or all the way over into areas like Concord and San Jose too. Let's dive more into those temperatures real fast because it's a gorgeous day to get out there and get some fresh air. I will mention our pollen count is relatively high, so take it slow out there if you are sensitive to allergies. But other than that, I mean, it's going to be a great day to really take advantage of some fresh air outside. We're expecting 73 degrees near Redwood City, 77 to Livermore. And if you like warm 70s, well, that's the case all throughout the Santa Clara Valley. And we're actually expecting 80s right around the corner. That system that's sitting just offshore will continue to warm us up into the low 80s for Wednesday and Thursday's forecast with sunny skies there. And then a cold front starts rolling its way into the weekend forecast. And that's what's going to bring in those showers, those chilly temperatures, and of course, those gusty conditions until around Sunday afternoon.
People in communities along the San Mateo County coast are without an emergency room right now, and they will be for months as they wait for repairs from recent storm damage. But as Max Darrow reports, the district's longtime congresswoman says this is not sustainable, and she is demanding more detailed answers.
It may be small, but Seton Medical Center Coastside is home to the only emergency room along the San Mateo County coast. And the decision to close it temporarily is drawing heavy scrutiny from elected officials who represent coastside residents, including Congresswoman Anna Eshoo.
You simply cannot leave people without any emergency center on the coast side.
The Associate Chief Operating Officer for Seton Medical Center says the closure of Seton Medical Center Coastside is only temporary and was necessary to undertake extensive building repairs because of severe storm damages and major repairs. The temporary closure could last up to 9 months. They're encouraging patients to seek emergency care and hospital services at Seton's Daly City campus.
Depending on where you live on the coast side, that could minimally take 45 minutes to get there. In a life and death situation, that simply is not acceptable.
Eshoo is demanding more transparency and specifics. She wrote this letter to the director of the California Department of Public Health.
I want to know under what circumstances they made this decision. How can it be that all of these people on the coast side are left without any emergency services whatsoever? I mean, are they rebuilding a building? What are they doing? They need to be transparent, fully transparent.
Seton's associate COO says the medical center considered keeping the standby emergency department open during repairs and renovations. However, this was not feasible because of the extent and nature of the damages to and condition of the facility, and that required ancillary services would not be available during construction.
A lot of questions need to be asked and answered. As I said, full transparency.
In her letter, Eshoo says she copied the California Attorney General to ensure all laws are being followed and enforced.
AHMC Healthcare, which is a for-profit hospital corporation, bought Seton Medical Center in 2020. The hospital was previously owned by a Catholic organization that filed for bankruptcy. Coming up in our next half hour here on CBS News Bay Area, a local nurse goes to Gaza and comes back home with a message.
This is a situation that they can't leave.
Her personal mission to the war zone and why she says she would go back again. Plus, one of San Francisco's most prominent progressives joins the race for mayor. How his campaign could impact the crowded fields of contenders.
The state requires
I'm Ann Makovic, and this is The Minute. Tesla has settled a lawsuit over its self-driving technology. In 2018, an Apple engineer died in a crash on a Mountain View freeway while his Model X was on autopilot. Tesla blamed the driver for playing a video game on his phone. The driver's family blamed Tesla's technology. Repairs on Highway 1 in Big Sur begin today after a portion of the highway crumbled during the Easter weekend storm. And Caltrans is resuming convoys to get people through that area. No word on when the repairs will be finished, but a long-term fix could take years. In San Jose today, the city council will vote on new rules that would limit where people can park their large vehicles and RVs overnight. The rules would also prohibit people from setting up encampments within 150 feet of a school. That meeting at 1:30 this afternoon. The Bay Area's only primetime newscasts at 8 and 9 p.m. on the all-new Pix Plus, 44 Cable 12.
It's been a beautiful, warm start to the week as high pressure sitting just offshore, bringing in the winds from the north and leaving us with clear skies into the afternoon hours, which was perfect for yesterday's partial eclipse that we experienced here in the Bay Area. But that system's going to continue to move off into the east later this week, and we actually have another rain system returning into the Bay Area, heading into our weekend forecast, which is very similar to last week's cold front that moved its way in. Remember how Easter Sunday was beautiful and sunny, and then suddenly by the end of the week we were talking about breezy conditions and rainy skies? Well, that's happening again for us this week as this area of low pressure starts troughing its way down into the Pacific Northwest and then eventually just offshore of our California coastline, and that's going to bring in rain for us Friday, Saturday, and a little bit of Sunday too. And as it continues to circulate just offshore, it'll bring in some gusty conditions and of course those cold temperatures too. So compared to what we have today, it's going to look a lot different, and I'll show you what we're expecting today in just a second. Here's those rainfall totals that we're expecting heading into the weekend forecast. About a half an inch, which is pretty impressive actually as we extend into the next couple days, considering the fact that we're already above average for many pockets of the Bay Area for our rainfall season so far. To give an example, San Francisco all the way up into Santa Rosa and San Jose, we're all sitting above 100%. So taking a look at our daytime highs today, well, we are expecting beautiful conditions. I'm talking about 70s anywhere from Antioch all the way over into Livermore, low 60s still along the coast, but it's still a sunny day for us no matter whether you live along Half Moon Bay or down into the Santa Clara Valley. So expect a gorgeous one out there this afternoon. And taking a look at the next 7 days, well, Wednesday and Thursday are looking perfect, actually. Sunny skies, mild conditions. We're expecting 80s in our inland areas. And then once that cold front moves in, watch the difference that happens just within the matter of a couple days. I mean, 50s right around the corner, rainy skies. We're going to slowly warm up into our Sunday forecast. And by next week, we dry up by Monday with partly cloudy conditions right around the corner.
The Israel-Hamas war has been going on for more than 6 months now, and the human toll has been devastating. In the midst of the fighting, many have traveled to the Middle East to help people in need, including this nurse, Sandra Elder from Fairfax. She came back to the Bay Area this weekend and shared with our Jose Martinez what she saw during her 2 weeks in Gaza.
Sandra Adler is back to her day job as an emergency room and pediatric nurse for Kaiser Permanente East Bay after completing a 2-week mission in Gaza.
I feel like what we did was a Band-Aid, even, hopefully saving lives. But, in the bigger picture, again, it was just a tiny drop and of what we could accomplish in the 2 weeks that we were there.
She tells me she and her team saw more than 150 patients a day during her time in southern Gaza. The work was difficult.
We were at a trauma stabilization point in Khan Yunis and working with a lot of mass casualty incidents, a lot of pediatric trauma.
So was getting to Gaza in the first place. Her journey started in Germany with training on how to work in a hostile environment. And from there,
we went to Cairo, where we procured some additional supplies, medical equipment. We brought 32 crates with us of mostly medical supplies and medicines, and it was about a 10-hour trip getting to the border, crossing over, and then getting to our home base in Rafah.
Sandra is no stranger to this type of work. She's been in disaster zones in places like Syria, Mexico, and Panama, but says this deployment was the toughest.
The artillery fire that we heard definitely increased over time. I'd say the last 5 days it was coming closer to Rafah, but consistently throughout my time there, we heard shelling.
She says one of her dearest memories is this picture with Nana, a little girl who visited her brother every day while he was receiving medical attention. But the saddest one was
leaving my colleagues, there, that here I knew the whole time that I had a way out. But this is a situation that, they can't leave. This is a situation that they're enduring day after day after day.
Sandra worked with a nonprofit emergency response organization called CADIS to get into Gaza. This was her 12th humanitarian mission. She says she'd like to go back if and when she can. We are continuing to monitor the race to replace Congresswoman Anna Eshoo, and today is the deadline for any voter to request a recount in the race, which we could see considering the two second-place candidates ended up in a dead tie. We know former San Jose Mayor Sam Liccardo is going to November's contest, but Santa Clara County Supervisor Joe Simidian and Assemblymember Evan Lowe both finished the primary with the exact same number of votes. If the two candidates are satisfied with the results, they will compete in a three-way race for the congressional seat. If not, they or any voter can request a recount, but whomever does so has to pay for it. And of course, there's no sure bet that the numbers would end up in either candidate's favor. In San Francisco, the mayor's race just got a little bit more crowded. Supervisor Aaron Peskin has thrown his hat into the ring.
And while I thankfully don't have any billionaires on my side, I have you. And I ask you to join with me, to fight with me, to save our city without sacrificing our values.
Peskin is the president of the board and one of the longest-serving politicians in the city's history. He is the sole progressive candidate running against Mayor London Breed and several moderate challengers. But Peskin says he doesn't see the race that way. He told our Wilson Walker he has another word on his mind.
I think people know my work on behalf of neighborhoods of San Francisco. I want to be a neighborhood mayor that honors every neighborhood in San Francisco.
Neighborhoods, the word of the day as Supervisor Aaron Peskin made his run for mayor official. But this is not a new keyword. It's the same word we heard back when we were asking whether or not he would join the race.
I started out as a neighborhood guy. I started out as a neighborhood activist in North Beach.
So let's unpack the word neighborhoods a little bit. Well, on one level, if you're running for mayor, neighborhoods are a nice way to think about building a coalition, right? Peskin has a quarter-century of experience here in North Beach, and if you want to build out from there, how about the next neighborhood over?
And the reason I am launching this campaign in Portsmouth Square is because of my deep and abiding connections with the Chinese community of San Francisco.
Chinatown, more than a neighborhood in this respect, it's the core of the city's Asian population, a third of the vote in San Francisco. There is a reason that other candidates have made major announcements in this very plaza. Now, recent years have shown the strength of this voting constituency, largely in support of moderate causes, but as political scientists will tell you, voters do not always vote by label.
We tend to assume they will line up the progressives or line up the moderates and vote consistently, and they typically don't do that.
So Peskin's roots in Chinatown could act as a kind of buffer against one political vulnerability as the progressive candidate.
Joe-san.
And then there is what it means to be progressive, and we have already seen a preview of this specifically in relation to recent battles over housing and zoning. Have a listen to the mayor in her recent State of the City address.
Building homes and adding treatment beds is progressive.
Peskin would argue that the need for housing must also be balanced against something else.
I think it's also about sticking up for the neighborhoods of San Francisco.
So the city's race for mayor begins to take shape amid a lot of talk about shifting politics in San Francisco.
Thank you all for coming this morning. I don't think that this is about progressive or moderates. This is about taking care of San Francisco and being a mayor who knows how.
So much discussion and opining about the potential Peskin run for so long that the signing of the paperwork, the announcement, it all feels a little bit like a fait accompli, but now the campaign really begins, and this doesn't mean that the field is set. Anyone thinking about running for mayor in San Francisco can still come down to the registrar's office and sign up. The deadline for that is in June.
So Mayor Breed and Peskin will be facing off against some high-profile and well-funded moderate candidates. They include venture capitalist Mark Farrell, who served as interim mayor for 6 months after the death of Mayor Ed Lee in 2017. Daniel Lurie, the founder of an anti-poverty nonprofit and heir to Levi Strauss, and Peskin's fellow supervisor, Asha Safai. Coming up next, Oakland's new baseball team wants to know who's got game. The Ballers came out hoping to earn their spot.
Very similar to yesterday's forecast, we're sitting in the 70s and upper 60s throughout most of the Bay Area heading into this afternoon. With the exception of Half Moon Bay, along our coastline, it'll be just a little bit cooler as those gusty conditions last into this afternoon. But from Oakland all the way off into the East Bay, 70s are holding on tight to us today with clear skies above us, and the pollen count is relatively high, so just keep that in mind if you are sensitive to allergies. But other than that, this is the day to get out there and get some fresh air. And here's the reason why I say that, because we're heading into a little tiny stretch of dry weather today, tomorrow, lasting into our Thursday forecast with some nice warm weather too in our inland areas. Low 80s by Wednesday into Thursday for areas like Concord, stretching down into the Santa Clara Valley. But once we head into our weekend forecast, no matter where you live, whether you're along the coast or off into the most east of the East Bay, we're going to be sitting in the 50s with rainy skies as a cold front moves in, and that's going to linger into our Sunday morning forecast too, with dry conditions by early next week.
Well, fans of the Oakland A's are still hurting after the news that the team will be moving to Sacramento after this season. But an independent minor league team, the Oakland Ballers, is hoping to fill that void. John Ramos was there this weekend as players from all over the area tried out for the team.
The A's may be leaving Oakland, but the dream of baseball was still very much alive. The Oakland Ballers tryout at Laney College drew players who were not afraid to take a long shot chance. That's sort of what Paul Friedman did when he co-founded the team.
When it became clear last year that the A's intended to move, like most fans, I was pretty devastated, but felt like baseball needs to stay in Oakland, and it really should be up to people from Oakland whether baseball stays or continues. And baseball has been such an important fabric of this community, and so we started the Ballers to say no matter what, there's going to be a team here.
More than 100 players showed up to try to snag one of the few remaining spots on the roster. Some showed more talent and perhaps experience than others. But Ballers manager Micah Franklin says some of these guys may actually have been drafted by MLB teams in years past.
Used to be 50 rounds in the draft. Now there's only 20 rounds. So rounds 21 through 50 now have no place to play. They come to our league to play, and now they're playing to show off their skills to all 30 teams.
And they may get some inspiration from one of the team's assistant coaches, former Giants star first baseman J.T. Snow. He said he was lured back to hear the crack of the bat and the pop of the glove.
You know, you never know. There's been a lot of guys that have come through and made their dreams getting to the big leagues from tryout camps like this. So obviously not everybody's going to get signed out here. There might be just a few or a couple, but you can always find that diamond in the rough.
Most of these guys have been playing since they were little kids, but Robert Nolan is now 35. He plays in an adult league in San Jose and realizes he's probably too old to be selected. But like JT, it's not easy to give up on the game.
Yeah, I'm just here to have fun. I mean, if there's a chance to make it and compete at this level, like I'd love to do it. Yeah. But if anything else, I came out here on a Saturday to play baseball.
But up in the stands, DeValin Harper remembers his days playing AAA ball. He thinks every player was holding on to some hope that the dream could come true.
No, I think they're serious, yeah. I think it's just something they have to get out of your system. Get it out of your system. Maybe I gave it a shot, you know. It worked or it didn't work. I think maybe one or two guys have come out of all this, so it's like winning the lottery.
Jason Dixon has no more hope. He watched from outside the ballpark, wondering what it will be like when the last of his beloved sports teams abandons him.
I lost my Raiders, I lost the Warriors, losing the A's. I'm still a fan. I think this is cool that it will still be baseball in Oakland, even though it's not a professional team, but it's still baseball, right?
Yes, it's still baseball, a game of hope and a game of heartache. And those who love it know you can't have one without the other.
Spring training for the Ballers will begin in May, but it only goes for a week. Their home opener is set for June 4th at Raimondi Park in Oakland. Coming up, it was a spectacle all across the country. The total solar eclipse blanketed millions. How long? We'll have to wait until the next one, and why astronomers say we really hit the sweet spot this year.
It's a dry day today, tomorrow, lasting into our Thursday forecast. But I think it's worth mentioning that we have a cold front once again around the corner that reminds me a lot of last week's cold front that brought in breezy conditions, chilly temperatures, and of course more rain too. That happens for us as we head into this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But before we get there, I want to talk about this dry portion right here because it is dry as we head into the afternoon hours today, thanks to high pressure sitting just offshore. That's keeping us above average when it comes to our temperatures too. I mean, taking a look at our daytime highs today, we're above average whether you live in San Francisco, Oakland, or all the way over into areas like Concord and San Jose too. Let's dive more into those temperatures real fast because it's a gorgeous day to get out there and get some fresh air. I will mention our pollen count is relatively high, so take it slow out there if you are sensitive to allergies. But other than that, I mean, it's going to be a great day to really take advantage of some fresh air outside. We're expecting 73 degrees near Redwood City, 77 to Livermore. And if you like warm 70s, well, that's the case all throughout the Santa Clara Valley. And we're actually expecting 80s right around the corner. That system that's sitting just offshore will continue to warm us up into the low 80s for Wednesday and Thursday's forecast with sunny skies there. And then a cold front starts rolling its way into the weekend forecast. And that's what's going to bring in those showers, those chilly temperatures, and of course, those gusty conditions until around Sunday afternoon.
We won't get another total solar eclipse here in the U.S. until 2024, but we have our memories and social media pictures from yesterday's eclipse. Its path of totality didn't make it here to the Bay Area, but we definitely got a partial viewing. The spectacle drew crowds to Oakland's Chabot Space and Science Center. They held a viewing party on campus. Yeah, sold-out crowd there filling the plaza to see this rare sight. All sorts of devices to look up safely, like telescopes that remove 99.9% of light. That was outside, and inside, visitors watched the total eclipse being televised.
It feels so powerful, right? And feels magical almost. And the aura is really beautiful.
I just feel lucky to be alive, to see all this beautiful stuff in this world.
Astronomers say this really is a lucky time for us because the moon is slowly moving farther away from Earth. And at the same time, the sun's getting bigger, meaning we hit a sweet spot. Meanwhile, students and possible future scientists gathered at Stanford for the eclipse, and the smiles on kids' faces showed that spark of awe and curiosity.
I've never seen an eclipse before. This is my first time in person.
What do you think?
I think it's really cool, and I'm really excited. It looks so cool how the moon is in the sun.
The same excitement came from students who want to make a living studying space, saying they hope people can stay inspired to learn more about planetary sciences. And Reed and I brought you all the excitement live from the eclipse in a special streaming right here on CBS News Bay Area. So if you didn't get a chance to catch it, you can still check out the entire special on our YouTube page. Just search for KPIX or CBS News Bay Area. And we have even more eclipse coverage on KPIX.com to see what it looked like in cities along the path of totality. Thanks for streaming CBS News Bay Area. I'm Ann Makovic. We're going to be right back with your first alert forecast and another look at your top stories. And this is the minute. 25 First Republic locations in the Bay Area will close next month. This comes a year after JP Morgan acquired First Republic. The closures are slated for May 24th. First Republic says it'll reopen 9 of those branches, either as JP Morgan or Chase. Library workers in San Francisco are holding a rally today demanding better security. They say the city's drug and homelessness crisis is making their jobs dangerous, and they don't have enough security guards. That rally kicking off at noon. And firefighters are watching for hot spots after a warehouse fire in Hayward. It started last night near Tripaldi and Hall Roads. That building housed an insulation business. No word on the extent of the damage. No injuries reported. The Bay Area's only primetime newscasts at 8 and 9 p.m. on the all-new Pix Plus, 44, Cable 12.
It's been a beautiful, warm start to the week as high pressure sitting just offshore, bringing in the winds from the north and leaving us with clear skies into the afternoon hours, which was perfect for yesterday's partial eclipse that we experienced here in the Bay Area. But that system's going to continue to move off into the east later this week, and we actually have another rain system returning into the Bay Area, heading into our weekend forecast, which is very similar to last week's cold front that moved its way in. Remember how Easter Sunday was beautiful and sunny, and then suddenly by the end of the week we were talking about breezy conditions and rainy skies? Well, that's happening again for us this week as this area of low pressure starts troughing its way down into the Pacific Northwest and then eventually just offshore of our California coastline, and that's going to bring in rain for us Friday, Saturday, and a little bit of Sunday too. And as it continues to circulate just offshore, it'll bring in some gusty conditions and of course those cold temperatures too. So compared to what we have today, it's going to look a lot different, and I'll show you what we're expecting today in just a second. Here's those rainfall totals that we're expecting heading into the weekend forecast. About a ½ an inch, which is pretty impressive actually as we extend into the next couple days, considering the fact that we're already above average